You booked it, episode 142. What's going on, everyone? Thank you for joining me today on You Booked It, the #1 podcast where you learn how to create a successful entertainment career. Every episode is a masterclass on how to move your career forward. And if you want even more, head over to youbookeditpodcast.com and join the email community where we dig deep into what you can be doing right now to help book that next gig. And now, let's do this. Okay, let's get started. I am excited to introduce my guest today, Zeke Martin. Are you ready for this, Zeke?
I am totally ready.
Brilliant. Born in Brussels, Zeke entered the world with a pair of drumsticks in his hands. His musical repertoire includes a blend of jazz, funk, R&B, reggae, rock, and more. At 12, Zeke had his first gig in France with world-renowned saxophonist Steve Lacy. Shortly after, he moved to the United States where he began a successful career, including the formation of Zeke Martin and The Oracle in 2000, earning him an interview in Drum magazine. Since then, The Oracle has released 7 albums, the latest of which are entitled Say What, #SUF, and Put It In Your Hat, just last year. Zeke has performed in many locations in the United States and throughout the world. A small selection include NAMM in Anaheim, California, the Berkeley Performance Center, the Regatta Bar, and the House of Blues in Boston. Zeke has shared the stage with 3-time Grammy winner Justin Raines, Rie Suji, and Jason Langley. He has opened for the Neville Brothers, the Funk Brothers, and played with well-known guitarist and retired Red Sox pitcher Bronson Arroyo at the World Series Championship Gala, opening for the Dropkick Murphys. Zeke Martin and The Oracle has also been reviewed by publications such as Jazz Times and has had the honor of being Grammy mentioned from 2014 to 2016 and 2019. Zeke, that is a quick intro of who you are and what you've done, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself? Fill in the gaps and a little bit more about what you do as a professional in the entertainment industry.
Well, first, Dane, I want to say thank you so much for having me on You Booked It. I'm really honored and blessed to be on the show. So thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, so fill in the gaps. That pretty much actually sums it all up. No, I mean, I'm a full-time musician. This is what I do for a living. I play drums. I've been playing for over 30 years. I also teach as well. I've been teaching for over 20 years, give or take, something like that. I've been teaching at Northeastern University for 13 years now, doing private lessons. And then I also, during the summertime, not this summer because it's wonderful COVID, but during the summer times, I teach at Berkeley, doing percussion weekend, and as well as teaching privately, doing Zoom lessons, especially now. But yeah, I've been playing all over the place. In 2009, 2010, my band and we toured over to Malaysia, which was amazing and awesome. I've played, I don't know, so many different places with so many different people, made so many different friends throughout my years of playing. And now I live in Boston and just trying to enjoy my life and maintain a really wonderful, successful musical career, I should say.
Brilliant. And such a good place to be set up as well. Between Northeastern and Berkeley, and gosh, there's so many great schools in Boston for what you do.
Yes, definitely. And I hear that you were here too. So if you were here, then it's got to be awesome.
Yeah, I love that place. Actually, Berkeley recently acquired the Boston Conservatory.
Correct.
So, it wasn't the Boston Conservatory at Berkeley College of Music when I was there, but now we can tag it on. Why not?
Hey, why not? Why not?
Exactly. Let's move on to our first section here. And Zeke, look, I am a sucker for a good quote. What is your favorite quote you'd like to share with everyone?
Oh my goodness. There's so many of them. I was living in New York. I'll give you a couple quotes so that kind of stand out for me for my life. And this first one took me a long time. I'm still trying to figure it out. I've gotten it to a point. I've gotten it understood to a point. But I was at a jam session in New York, and I used to go to this bar and sit in, and these guys, a bunch of Latin musicians, but they also did like some funk stuff and stuff like that, and they a little bit took me under their wing when I was there. This is like back in 93, 94. And one of the band leaders, we were hanging out afterwards, and he said, look with your ears and listen with your eyes. And I was like, okay. And I didn't get it. And then as time went on, experience after experience of playing on stage, I started getting it and started understanding what he was saying. Being on stage and working with other musicians, you kind of have to look with your ears, meaning really have big ears and listen to what's going on and what the other players are doing and playing, and then looking with your ears. That's looking with your ears and listening with your eyes, observing how they interact and move and so on and so forth. And then the other quote that I try my best to live my life by is was from my mom, and which was basically be the best Zeke Martin that you can be. There you go.
Boom. So good. I like both of those quotes. I've not heard the first one. Certainly haven't heard the second one until today, obviously. But I love both of them so much. And especially in that second one, the idea being, look, you just got to be you. You're the only you. You can
Right.
only control you. So don't worry about the rest.
Yeah,
Right.
that came from my mom, because I remember when I was 16, and she said, I went up to her, I said, I want to be a musician. She said, really? I was like, yeah. My father was a famous jazz drummer named Stu Martin, and he played with everyone from Herbie Hancock to John McLaughlin to Thelonious Monk, so many different people. So I felt like I had to follow in his footsteps. And I went up to her, I said, I want to follow in his footsteps. And she said, no. And I said, no, I really want. She's no. If you're gonna be a musician, be the best Zeke Martin you can. There's already a Stu Martin. Be the best Zeke Martin that you can. So
Yeah.
that's where that comes from.
Such good advice.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, let's move on to this next section here. And Zeke, of course, you are an entertainer. I'm an entertainer. And I think that you'd agree that this industry can be one of the most subjective, brutally honest, and personally emotional industries in existence.
Hmm.
And you know as well as I that in order to create and have a successful career in this industry, like you're having now, takes a lot of dedication and hard work. And while, yeah, there's an outrageous amount of fun and excitement doing what we do, there are also our fair share of challenges, obstacles, and failures we are going to experience and we're going to have to move forward through. So tell us, what is one key challenge, obstacle, or failure you've experienced in your career, and how did you come out the other side better because of it?
I've had a lot of failures. I've had a lot of failures in my career, but I think you're supposed to. If you don't have failures, you're not able to learn from them, and you're not able to grow and be able to move on and hopefully learn from them and be successful. I was, again, living, oh my goodness, a few of them actually. So living in New York, and there was this one club that I used to go to, and I thought I had my stuff together, and I went and sat in and played, and afterwards the bass player was like, dude, no, get out of here. And I felt like crap. And I went back home and I cried. And I was like, okay. I was talking to my girlfriend at the time. I was like, oh, I suck. I can't play, blah, blah, blah. And then just pushed me to work a little harder and start practicing harder and getting back in the shed and saying, you know what, I'm going to go back and work harder. That actually happened to me a couple times. I sat in at a club here in Boston. This was many years ago. And the bass player, again, a bass player, was a friend of mine and had me sit in. And man, my tempo was just like crash and burn. It was awful. And I didn't really, I was like, I kind of got off stage thinking, all right, cool, that was fun, that was great, yeah. And then the next day, I was hanging out, I was like, oh man, what was going on? He's, dude, your tempo was awful. I was like, oh. and I felt so small and felt so bad. And I was like, yeah, okay, I need to go and work. And now it's my tempo's a lot better. At least I hope it is.
Yep.
And I do about when COVID's not around, I do roughly like for the past few years, I've done about somewhere between 175 to 200 shows a year. And I teach about 30 students a week. So obviously, I'm doing something right where those instances were definitely crash and burn instances. I've definitely come out on the other side and been able to make a living out of it.
Absolutely. You're right. We have to all fail to grow or to have any perspective on how to get better. We can't just
Right,
immediately become amazing out of the gate. But
right.
gosh, as a percussionist, that you guys have a hard job, man.
Thank you.
Having to set the tempos, everything like that, and also be playing your instrument, right? Like
Right.
you have, from my perspective, from I'm not a musician in the sense that how you would define a musician, I don't believe. And I feel like the percussionist has a lot on their table as compared to perhaps a few other the other members that might be in, say, a jazz band. Am I correct in
Mhm.
that?
Yeah, I've always felt that, and this is always up for debate and the biggest argument you're ever going to get. But the most important person in the band, in my belief, is the drummer. And yeah, I might be biased or whatever because I am a
Right.
drummer.
Right.
But if you think about a band, who counts off the tempo 90% of the time? The drummer. I always look at it this way: you can have a great band and a sucky drummer, the band's going to be awful. Or you can have a sucky band and a great drummer and the band's going to be great. I think yeah, there's definitely a heartbeat with the bass for sure, but the drummer really holds everything, is like definitely the glue that holds it all together.
Yeah, I was in a show in Las Vegas. I was dancing in a show and it was called Pinup. Great show,
Okay,
but we had a live band on stage
nice.
and it was such a great show, but my God, you could tell those days when Mark had a little bit too much coffee. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
it looks like we're working hard tonight, guys.
Right,
Because
right, exactly.
now you got to do your choreography has to be sped up. Everything, right? The lifts,
Right.
all of it. It can make a show exciting. It can also because it's always that fine line of pushing the tempo to it being full of energy and really driving forward to being like, okay, we might be going too fast.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, it was on Fast Forward whenever you did your show and he was drinking coffee.
Exactly right. And then there's another time I was in other shows, and from my experience in, say, the musical theater world, I usually have noticed that it's the percussionist as well that's running like all the time code and things like that, and doing all of that tech stuff and
Hmm.
running all of those while is still maintaining his tempo, maintain like driving the show. There's so many things
Right.
that have to go on as a percussionist. It's crazy.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's a good friend of mine who is doing a Broadway show, Hamilton, the touring one. And yeah, there's a conductor, and yeah, there's all these different parts. But man, if he's not on top of his game playing drums, you can tell that the show would fall apart. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I really feel it starts with the drummer. They set, if it's a good drummer, yeah, the band doesn't have to worry about anything.
For sure. And let's move on to a time that I like to call your spotlight moment. That one moment in time you realized, yes, I am going to be an entertainer for a living. Or maybe it was, yes, this is what I need to be doing in the entertainment industry. Tell us about that.
I still don't know if I want to be in the entertainment industry.
Fair enough, fair enough.
I'm still working on that. Actually, a quick side note, I actually almost quit drums when I was a kid. Like you said in my bio, my first gig was when I was 12. But when I moved to the United States in 1986, went to high school in Cambridge, Mass, and I joined a tennis team. And I grew up watching tennis in Europe. So I watched the big, great matches from Jimmy Connors and John McEnroe and Yvonne Lendl and stuff like that. I almost quit drums to be a tennis player.
Wow.
Um, so that just side note doesn't mean that I was really good at it. It just means that I don't really want to do the drum thing. I want to play tennis. But I moved to in 1992, 93. I moved to New York, and a friend of mine, again, It's one of those things, if drummers out there, bass players out there, there's a certain camaraderie between those two instruments that you just click, and it's just you become really good friends or you're not friends at all, like in a band, for instance. So this bass player who I was friends with, again, another bass player, gave me this CD, which what he actually, yeah, he let me listen to one CD, and then I discovered this other CD. And the first one was P Funk All Stars live in LA. And the drummer on that is a very well known drummer by the name of Dennis Chambers. And I'm listening to it, and he does this roaring fill, like just comes out of nowhere. And I'm like, oh my God, what was that? And I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to do that. That's exactly what I want to do. And so I looked into him more. And at the time, I got into this record. It's a John Scofield record. It's called Pick Hits Live. And the second tune on there, I think it's called Pick Hits. And Dennis does this intro. And I was like, from then on, I was hooked. I was like, that's exactly what I want to do. That's what I want to do for a living. And I work, I had jobs, and I've done just about every job you can think of as far as like day gigs. And I really mean every single, like everything.
Yeah, yeah.
Except for maybe working at a fast food joint, but I've done a lot of different day jobs. But yeah, I heard that album and I was hooked. And I was like, yep, that's it. That's what I want to do.
So good.
Yeah.
And let's piggyback on that real quick and talk about your number one booked it moment.
Uh,
Walk us through that day. If auditions or callbacks or anything like that were part of it, let's hear about that. But what was going on in your life, and what about that moment makes it your favorite booked it moment?
so for me, there's a club in Boston. Actually, there's a couple of them, if you don't mind. I'll give you a couple of
Yeah,
them.
yeah, of course.
So in 2000, I think it was 2010, I released a CD, and I did the CD release party in New York, and it was at this club called what used to be called Sweet Basil's, and then it got changed to Sweet Rhythm, and down in the Village. And I was able to book it. I rent the room and I packed the place. And I had, like I said, I come from a musical family. From my father, and my mother was actually an actress. If you know the movie Houseboat with Sophia Loren, my mom was a body double for Sophia Loren. So
Oh,
anytime you watch,
cool.
yeah, so anytime you see that movie and Sophia Loren's back is to the camera, that's my mom. I come from jazz royalty with my father, and then acting from my mom. There was some really major, so those major players
Yeah.
that came to my CD release party. So that was really cool. And I'm really not a name dropper, but it's also my, for me it's my friends or it's my family, and I don't think of them as like these big celebrities. My godfathers is Barry Altschul and Jack DeJohnette. They were at my show, and it's fit for me. It's just it's family. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
of course.
It's Billy Hart was there. It's like, you know, all these friends came to support me. So that was a really great, definitely I booked it moment. And then the other one, and what was also cool is I've been a fan of Dennis Chambers since I heard him, like I said, on that CD. And then he used to play at Sweet Basil's, which is went to Sweet Rhythm and then closed down, unfortunately. But it was like, okay, now I'm sitting here and I'm playing at the same place that he played at. You know what I mean? And then I booked my band at the Borgata Bar. And it was just like, did I just book my band at the Borgata Bar? This is like a top of the line jazz club. It's on the jazz circuit. So it was just like, wow, this is amazing. And just setting up my drums there in the same spot that my idol Dennis Chambers sets up his drum set was just, man, it was amazing. And let's see, I've played there, I've booked it twice now, and both times were just amazing and just unbelievable, and packed a place, and so many people to support and coming out to just support me, which was just amazing. Yeah, it was just totally Yeah, I felt like I was in space. I
Yeah,
was
I
on,
can
I was
imagine.
on, yeah, I was on cloud nine for sure
And so cool that you've got to play regatta bar twice as well.
with my band. Yeah.
Yeah, so when you do that, when you went back for the second time, were you able to, I'm envisioning maybe to enjoy it a little bit more? Because you're like, oh, I've been here, I can soak this up maybe a bit more.
A little bit. It's okay. So there's a difference. So the first time, so as a musician, here's a quick bit of advice to up and coming musicians: try to play with as many people as possible. Be in as many bands as you possibly can, especially nowadays because unfortunately, I feel the days of, oh, I'm in a band and we're gonna make it and be in this one band are not necessarily over, but they're not as popular, not as, it doesn't happen as often.
Right.
So try to play as with as many people as possible. So I have my own band, but I also play in a bunch of other bands. So one of the other bands that I play in is called Atlas Soul, and so they play at the Regatta Bar maybe about 2 times a year or so. So that was my first experience at playing at the Regatta Bar, and then from there I
Cool.
was able to book my band. And as a band leader, there's a different mindset. You know what I mean? It's as a side man, you're just a side man. You just need to just chill and hang out and not have to worry about all the stuff that a band leader has to worry about, which is, are all of your musicians okay? Is everybody happy? Does everybody sound okay? Does make sure that everybody gets fed, make sure that everybody gets paid, make sure that again
Yep.
everyone is happy. You know what I mean? Whereas a sideman, you don't have to worry about that. Somebody else gets to worry about that. Playing at the Regatta Bar, the first and second time, that's always on my head, or it's always in my head. Doesn't matter where I'm playing. I always want to make sure that my bandmates are happy and fed, and that they're cool and enjoying themselves.
Yeah, right on. And let's take a moment to talk about the present. What
Okay.
projects are you working on now? What are you looking forward to? And it's a weird time, right? We are amidst this global pandemic. How do you see the entertainment industry moving forward in the next couple of years?
Wow, that's 3 questions with 14,000 answers.
I know, I know.
Let's start with present. Like you said, I'm lucky. Like I said, I've been teaching at Northeastern for 13 years, so I'm back at Northeastern this semester. They have been amazing. They have their own testing site, so I get tested every week, which is great. And all the students there get tested 3 times a week if you're on campus. And it's slow, obviously, because, like you said, we're in a global pandemic. But I have some students, which is great. So that's nice to be back and being able to teach those students that are there. Like I said, I do 200 shows a year, 200 gigs a year, usually. But right now, I'm doing maybe about 1 to 2 shows a month. Usually, I do 15 to 20. But at least I'm still out there, and the camaraderie is the biggest part that I miss from doing shows. And I'm doing some private teaching as well, Zoom lessons. I also teach at Music and Arts, which is an affiliation with Guitar Center. And I'm also in the midst of doing something else. It's on the down low. I'll tell you, I'm also writing a drum book, which I'm
Oh,
super
cool.
excited. Yes, I'm super excited about. I have a friend of mine that's helping me out. This guy named Sal Alamilo. So he's helping me out. Actually, he lives in California. So it's cool that we're talking on the phone. And again, you said you were down in Australia. And so technology is so amazing nowadays. I love it. So, yeah, so those are some of the things. I'm working on a new CD, and hopefully, as soon as this global pandemic gets a little bit better or goes away or they find a vaccine or whatever, we can get back into the studio and record our eighth album. I'm also doing another album with a really good friend of mine named Pat Loomis. So yeah, I'm trying to stay as busy as I can during this time. And then on the other hand, I'm just hanging out with my kids and just enjoying. My 8-year-old is doing flag football and he won his game today. So yeah, so it's things are going good. The industry is definitely going to change for sure. I think we'll go back probably not until 2021, 22, get back back to quote unquote some type of normalcy. But I think that, like I just said, the whole technology thing, I think that's going to come into play a lot more and a lot bigger than it used to. I think that, especially now with Zoom and all these different things, being able to, what's amazing is, okay, you have Zeke Martin, professor, drum teacher at Northeastern. He's teaching in Japan today via Zoom, or he's teaching in doing a class in Australia, or that type of thing. I think that is going to be a lot more prominent when things start to, when the dust settles and we're able to get back to, like I said, quote unquote normalcy. What's cool in this time is that the big arena stuff, that's not going to be happening probably for another year and a half, maybe 2 years. And I think what's great about that is we're going back in time in a way where the people that get to thrive a little bit more are the jazz musicians. Because the jazz musicians, it's like maybe 3 people, a quartet, maybe 5 people playing for 250, maybe 300 people at different clubs and stuff like that. And I think that for a while, I think that's going to thrive for a good amount of time. So I'm looking forward to that, to change
Yeah.
everyone's perspective and a little bit view on music as well.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you on the smaller productions and the jazz bands. I have a handful of friends out in Vegas, and that's what they're booking right now.
Yeah,
Is their band stuff, setting them up in a lounge somewhere on a stage away from everyone, but
right.
people are still there having their cocktails or having some dinner. And it's like you said, it's going back to the roots.
Yeah. Actually, you have friends in Vegas. You mentioned Jason Langley. That's a good friend of mine, and he lives out in Vegas as well. So again, a bass player.
Brilliant. And let's move on to one of my favorite sections in the interview. I call it the Grease Lightning Round.
Oh boy.
I am going to ask you a handful of questions. I want you to answer them as quickly and concisely as possible, one after another. Are you ready?
Let's go. Let's do it. I'm
Yes.
ready. I'm psyched. I got my jolt. I'm ready to go.
All right. First question. What was the one thing holding you back from committing to a career in the entertainment industry?
I was scared of failure.
Second question. What is the best piece of advice you have ever received?
Like I said earlier, the best piece of advice was from my mom, and that was be the best Zeke Martin that you can be.
Third question. What is something that is working for you right now? Or, if you'd like to go pre COVID, what was working for you before our industry went on pause?
One of the things that people say about me is that that I can hustle. So I hustle. I meet people, and this kind of is like one of the things that I learned from a good friend of mine named Jason Langley. And basically, what it is, it's like the 3 foot rule. Anyone that you are around in 3 foot radius, give him your card. Go to vistaprint.com or whatever and get cards printed out and give them to anyone and everyone so that anyone and everyone knows who you are and what you do in the music industry and in art and in any type of artistic industry. And so that people can say, oh yeah, and put a picture on your card too. That helps. Really, it does. Of yourself, obviously. And they'll say, cool, I remember that person. Let me call them because I need a whatever you do.
Great advice.
Thanks.
And the fourth question. What is your best resource, whether that is a book, a movie, maybe a YouTube video or podcast, or piece of technology that you've found is helping your career right now?
Resource, man, the internet is amazing. I find it so helpful, but also not at the same time. It's one of those double-edged swords. It really is. YouTube is great. You can find out anything and learn everything, but also you also got to remember to go to shows and support your, local, regional, national, whatever artists. So I would say definitely the internet is a great, amazing tool that you need to make sure that you use wisely, as well as social media. Don't get caught up in all the bureaucratic stuff that goes on with social media. If you're in the entertainment industry, use it for that. Use it to get your name out. Use it to get whatever you do, whether it's art or music or anything like that, or dance or anything. Put up videos, and you never know who's going to see you or what's going to happen, or just get it all out there. Get all that content out there and show yourself off, and don't be afraid to. But also at the same time, be as humble as possible and just say, hey, this is me. Because what's great about that is that, and this is something that I learned, is that you're not going to be able to please everyone, and that's okay. But you know what? There are people that are out there that are going to like what you do. We're, what are we, 7.5 billion people? There's no way that all 7.5 billion people in this wonderful, amazing world that is out there does not like what you do. You're going to find a niche. You just got to find it. That's all.
Yeah, killer advice.
Thank you.
And the fifth question: if you had to start your career from scratch, but you still had all the knowledge and experience you've collected from your career in this industry, what would you do or not do? Would you do anything differently, or would you keep it the same?
I think I would do some things differently for sure. I got a really late start in life as far as saying I want to be a musician. I started more like when I was 18, and I've been on my own since I was 18. So it was, I had to find a job, I had to find a place to live. And all that stuff gets piled on top of each other. And like I was living in New York and I had my drum set there and I never even touched it because I didn't have time. So if you are young and before you have to be on your own, and if you have the ability to have time to practice as much as possible, and like I said with the other question, get your name out there as much as possible. Go meet anyone and everyone that has to deal with your industry. Get business cards and pass them out to everyone. Get on social media, make friends, meet people. One of the things for musicians, go to NAMM, which is National Association of Music Merchants. And there's one in Nashville, which is the Summer NAMM, and one in Anaheim, California, which is the Winter NAMM. And it's a great place to meet like-minded people and meet your peers and meet your idols and so on and so forth, and ask advice. You can't go wrong with asking questions. You really can't.
Agreed. So good. Thank you for those resources.
Yeah.
And the last question: what is the golden nugget knowledge drop you've learned from your successful career in this industry that you'd like to leave with everyone?
This is a good one. In this industry, in my case, the music industry, a good friend of mine told me, be approachable. That's pretty much it. You know what I mean? It's like if you are a touring musician, or just, it doesn't matter whether you're a touring musician or not, if you're a local musician, national, international, whatever, it doesn't matter what, be approachable, be nice, be kind. Because honestly, most people don't want to have to deal with the jerk. They want to have to deal with the nice, friendly person that they like to hang out with. There's a reason why certain people work as much as they do, because they're nice people. Yeah, there are some people who are jerks and they still work a lot, and that's okay because they're amazing musicians and they'll put up with their stuff. But for the most part, most of the people that get the callbacks and that are working a lot are the nice people, the nice musicians that are fun to hang out with, that are, like I said, approachable, that don't give too much trouble. Especially if you're a touring musician, you're on the road for a year with the same people in a van or a bus or whatever the means of transportation is. You want to make sure that that everybody gets along, men, women, whatever, the whole crew. You want to make sure that you get along. And that's a really big part. So if you don't get along, it's not going to work. So yeah, be approachable and have fun. Most important, have fun. If it's not fun, then don't do it. Just have fun and enjoy yourself, and wake up every morning saying, wow, I get to play music for a living. This is great. I'll take it.
Yeah, for sure. I'm so glad that you brought up being approachable and simply being nice to everyone. That's what is
Right.
so important about this podcast as a resource for musicians and aspiring entertainers or current professional entertainers, because that idea of being nice and approachable to people has come up again and again. And it's quite clear that it is a fundamental tool or aspect of having and creating a successful career in this industry. So it's something to be paying attention to. And that's what's great about this podcast, is that because we have the same questions, people answering all the same questions differently, right? It's right. We really start discovering how to create successful careers out of this industry. So thank you for bringing that up.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, it's funny because the thing about it is you feel like that's common sense. Duh. Of course, everyone has bad days. It's a given. Everyone has bad days. But it's how you turn it around. It's, do you have more bad days than good days? Then you got to look at yourself. You know what I mean? Hopefully you have more good days than bad days. But yeah, it's being friendly and kind, and don't be a jerk. It's be nice and be kind, and everyone knows what you do. If you're a good musician, you're a good musician, and everybody knows what you do. You don't have to keep proving yourself or say, oh, look at me, check me out. You don't need that. You just play, enjoy yourself, have fun, and enjoy the time that you got on this earth to do something that you love to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And to wrap up this interview, Zeke, it is time to give yourself a plug. Where can we find you? How do our listeners connect with you? Is there anything you want to promote?
Yes. You can find my website, which is www.zekemartin.com, which is ZEKEMARTIN.com. Like I said before, I'm all over social media. So if you just put in Zeke Martin on Facebook, I'm the bald guy with the facial hair. And Instagram and Twitter, both is Z Martin. Spotify, Zeke Martin and the Oracle. Let's see, what else? Oh, man, I don't know. All kinds of stuff. Oh, YouTube. Just put in Zeke Martin and the Oracle right there as well. So, yeah, all over the internet. And just like I said, look for the bald guy.
Brilliant. And for everyone listening out there, I have put the links to everything Zeke just mentioned into the description of this episode, so you can easily connect with him and check him out. And also, be sure to share this podcast with your fellow entertainers, coaches, teachers, or anyone that you know who's aspiring to create a career in this industry. This podcast has become an integral part of helping them succeed, because You Booked It is the largest resource of expertise on the subject of how to create a successful career in the entertainment industry. And if you enjoyed this podcast, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss tomorrow's. Zeke, it has been such a pleasure to have you on today. Thank you so much for being here.
Dane, it's been my pleasure. Thank you so much. I really appreciate having me on the show. Yeah, definite 2 thumbs up.
Brilliant. Thanks. Thank you so much for joining us today. Don't miss an episode. I have a new guest 7 days a week. Every guest drops more value and insight than any other resource out there. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love to hear from you. Leave us a rating and review. Also, be sure to head over to youbookeditpodcast.com and join our free email community, where we dig deep into a continually growing resource of truly actionable things you can be doing right now to help you advance your entertainment career. All the best to you. We'll see you tomorrow.